Nick,
Here.
Kate. Here. Leo.
Here.
Lori. Milad. Here. Rebecca L.
Here.
Rebecca S. Here. Ron. Henry. John.
Here.
Andrew Young. Elena. Here. Mark.
Here.
Corey.
Thank you, Hannah. Seeing that the minutes were distributed, I would run.
I moved to waive the reading of the minutes.
There's a motion on the table to waive the reading of the minutes, second by Andrew. Questions for wording, discussion. All those in favor of waiving the reading of the minutes, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention. Motion carries. Ryan?
I move to approve the minutes.
There's a motion on the table to approve the minutes, second by Andy. Questions for the wording? All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you so much, Hannah. They were exceptionally lovely to speak. We will now move into public comments. Are there any public comments on the floor or from any representative member of council? Seeing that there are none, we'll move into financial matters. And because Maya wasn't able to be at the grants committee meeting this week, Ryan?
On behalf of the Grants Committee, I move to allocate $250 to Karen Gross from quarter 2 with a 2-week waiver.
There's a motion on the table to allocate $250 from quarter 2 with a 2-week waiver to Kara Gross. Is there a second? Seconded by Milad. Questions to the wording? Discussion. Ryan?
So this request had actually come in last week, but due to some scheduling issues, we heard it today. Friends, so Karen's involved with the Occupy Boston movement. She got very involved, saw the kind of community that's being established there and wanted to bring parties to that event. She's therefore getting a bus to take people down to Boston for the day. Brands felt that this was a really great event. However, since they cannot fund the entirety of the event, they chose to allocate $250 as opposed to $275, and I believe she's in the audience if she'd like to speak.
Hi. Would you like to say something?
I mean, I feel like this is a really great opportunity for everyone to be, whether people want to get more involved or just curious to really be a part of, like, to experience the hub of what is not just like a Boston or an American, but a global movement at this point. And, you know, Clark is all about challenge, convention, change our world, and I think this is really like living that motto. So.
Thank you, Kara. Further discussion? Andrew?
I'd like the motion to increase the allocation to $274.
There's a motion on the table to amend the recommendation to increase it to $274. Is there a second? Second by Milad. Questions to the wording? Discussion. Andrew?
No, definitely going off what Kara just said and what Ryan said previously. I think it's a really important social issue right now. And as you know, a progressive school, I think we should be in the forefront of this. So I think we should definitely try to fund this as much as we possibly can.
Right?
All that said, which I agree with, the concern I have with raising to 274 is it sends a message that we're just trying to follow the letter of our rules and not the spirit of them. Kara's group had very happily mentioned that they would like to contribute some of their own money to the event. With plus of the size they have, is that it would be less than $1 per person who they have to contribute. So Grants felt that $250 was appropriate and in keeping with the spirit of our bylaws. So I feel like if we increase it to just under the amount they requested, we're not really doing ourselves a great favor in terms of future requests.
Further discussion? Rebecca?
I agree.
With Ryan? Further discussion? All right, so seeing that there is no further discussion, we'll move into voting on the amendment. So all those in favor of amending the grants request to increase the amount to $274, please say aye. Aye.
Call for division.
We're just going to call for division in the row. Hannah? Okay, just a second.
Sam.
Aye.
Hannah. Nay. Ola. Me. Andrew Shushu.
Aye.
Ryan.
Nay.
Maya. Leo,
Abstain.
Roy,
Abstain.
Malat, Rebecca L.
Yay.
Rebecca S. Veron,
Aye.
John, oh, just kidding. Okay, that's it.
The motion fails. There were 6 nays and 5 yeas. So we'll move into voting on, or we'll move into discussion on the recommendation as it stands without the amendment. Further discussion? Ryan?
It's a really great event, and thank you for putting it on, thank you for dealing with the scheduling issues.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move into voting. All those in favor of allocating $250 from quarter 2 with a 2-week waiver to Kara Gross and her group, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
2 opposed. Abstentions? 1 abstention. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Kara.
Thank you very much.
Ryan?
This is just to inform you guys, One Campus Challenge has come in with a request for $350 to screen the documentary with the carriers. And this event is going to be in about a month. Because of some confusion about the cost of the rights for that movie, One Campus Challenge and Grants decided to make the most sense to table the request until next week. I'll have that for you next week. On behalf of Grants Committee, I move to allocate $183.60 from quarter 2 to Clark Musical Theater.
There's a motion on the table to allocate $183.60 from quarter 2 to Clark Musical Theaters for the Rising Stars group. Is there a second? Seconded by Andrew. Questions to the wording, discussion, Ryan?
So Rising Stars had requested $233.60 to buy 36 t-shirts with the Rising Stars logo and tie-dye materials for the students who are involved in the group and their mentors. This, by the way, is a group that works with local Lister kids doing a variety of performing activities. The goal is to create a sense of unity and to organize on stage and reward the students who are involved for their hard work and participation in the program. Grants Committee felt that the t-shirts would indeed do all of those things and therefore recommends allocating $182.60 to cover the cost of the t-shirts. Grants Committee recommended the funding for the tie-dye be provided from another source because they could, after all, do the show without it, and it would not really substantially harm the quality of the request. I believe we have a representative from CMT here.
Lisa, would you like to comment?
I just wanted to comment that in the past, we have sought money either from Student Council or the CEB Center, and we've gotten colored t-shirts, and we found that it costs less money to get white t-shirts and tie-dye them instead of get colored. So if that clarifies things, I just thought I'd put that out there. And the reason we're doing tie-dye is because our show's theme is a song from Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat, so tie-dye is kind of appropriate. But we could find the money elsewhere if we had to. So.
Thank you, Lisa. Further discussion? Seeing that there is none, we'll move into voting. All in favor of allocating $183.60 from quarter 2 to CMT and the Rising Stars, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you so much, Lisa. Ryan?
On behalf of the Grants Committee, I move to allocate $530 to undergraduate psychology committee with the 2-week waiver.
There's a motion on the table to allocate $530 from quarter 2 with a 2-week waiver to the undergraduate psychology committee. Is there a second? Second by Ryan. Questions to wording? Discussion? Ryan?
So this is an event that I think has been advertised pretty widely on campus. Is UPC does NYC, a trip to New York to see the play Freud's Last Session. So currently, the undergraduate psychology committee is planning on charging students $40 to take a bus down to New York and attend this play, or if they just want to take the bus down, $30. So they're asking members and participants to put a significant amount of money towards this project. They're requesting money for the tickets to the actual show from Grants Committee because they fear higher prices would deter people from wanting to go to the show. Grants Committee felt this was very reasonable. Grants Committee was brought up that this type of event was something that generally would be funded out of the club's year-over-year budget. However, when we look at the information about the club's budget request from the last year, they had only gotten 65% of what they requested from Finance Committee. And so Grants felt that it was very reasonable to help defray the cost of these tickets, particularly as they were contributing so much of their own money to the cost. Is there a representative from UPC here? Yes.
Two of us.
Guys, can you state your names for a minute?
Danielle Traversa.
Aaron Landis.
Thank you. Comments?
We just really think this is a great event for Clark students to attend. The play is about if Freud had been able to meet and debate philosophy with C.S. Lewis. So there's, yeah, sounds cool, right? So there's educational matter on that front, and it's also set on the day when England enters the Second World War. So there's historical significance as well. We have a lot of students that are really interested and excited about coming. So if you guys could help us out, it would be awesome.
And along similar lines, we believe the event is applicable not just to psychology majors, but basically anyone who has an interest in theater, history, philosophy, or anyone who just wants to go to New York for a day.
Further discussion? Rebecca?
Is this event occurring this weekend?
Yes, it's on Saturday.
Okay. So, you guys don't yet have money for the trip? You've been selling tickets?
We have been selling tickets. We have some money in our budget that, the tickets have already been paid for out of our budget. What the concern is right now is the bus fees. So the tickets have been largely going to pay for the bus because I believe actually the bus exceeds the budget that we have been allocated for this year. So we do have the funding for it. It's just if we pay for it all ourselves, it's going to pretty much deplete our entire supply.
Ma'am?
I believe from reading the request that they had intended to apply for a grants request earlier, but there was some confusion in getting the actual quote from the bus company. So this is not by any means their fault that they didn't come in earlier for the.
Katie?
Yeah, I was just going to speak to what Megan just said in that there were a couple of issues with the bus. The bus has been secured and it's all set, but there was some concern over whether or not there was a bus available for this trip. Additionally, because they are going to New York, it is over state lines, it's a bit of a longer trip. They do have to get a coach bus in order to do it. A school bus will not make that trip, which is why the cost for the bus is significantly higher than a typical trip going to somewhere local.
Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor of allocating $530 from quarter two with a 2-week waiver to the undergraduate psychology committee, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else, Ryan?
That's it for me.
May I get any Thanks. All right. We will now move to the financing report. Andrew?
All right, so, this past Monday, we went over a large amount of from our audit process right now. We're getting back in contact with clubs, making sure everybody, like each club knows like what, either if they're not in violation of bylaws or, they are. And we're talking with clubs right now to, figure out if we're gonna choose, recommend fines or not. And our projected date to issue our report to council is November 16th. So that's in about 2 weeks.
Thanks so much, Andrew. Anything else to report?
No, not this time.
Thanks for all of your work that you've been doing and all the work that you will do. So we'll move into student life with the organizational committee report. Kate?
Not that much to report, nothing written here. We have received a PCR request, so we'll be going over that at our meeting tomorrow, very exciting. And also, we've had complaints from Bus to Boston, issues like scheduling and stuff like that, so we're looking into giving students a way to communicate that to us in a more efficient way and see what we can do about it. And that's it.
Great. I'm concerned that we haven't really been seeing that in PCF requests.
Yeah, I'm gonna be emailing groups to like remind them. If anybody, maybe can we use our listserv so like maybe people who are aware that faculty have PCF money to go out? That would also be really helpful. And
That's it. Sheet knowledge, what I was gonna say.
okay. Kate?
If you wanna write up an email to send to club officers, just forward it right to me and I can send it to all club officers. I don't know if you wanna send it out to your individual listserv, because they're comprised of your entire constituencies. If you wanna target club officers, I can turn them.
That sounds like a good solution.
And we are trying to set up a Facebook group for the organization community to kind of get our name more out there and give people a way to like talk to us and see how they would be able to do PCR for costs and stuff like that. So that would also help.
Yeah,
Let
that
people know what we're doing.
if, once you create that group, if you want to post a link to it on the student council Facebook, and I hope everyone likes the student council on Facebook, guys. If you want to post it to there, then we can all publicize it to our friends and, share it. So, sounds good. Thanks so much, Kate. All right, we'll move into the judiciary committee report. Andrew?
Lisa emailed out our procedures years ago. If somebody wants to move to accept that, would be really cool.
Andy?
I move to accept.
There's a motion on the table to accept the revised judicial internal procedures. Is there a second? Second by Sam. Questions to the wording, discussion. Andy?
I just prepare our procedures.
Great. Further discussion? Sam?
Could I just ask them to share, just summarize like what their procedures, what changes or what it was?
Andrew?
Well, in terms of changes, that would be literally everything, didn't have the rule.
Really saying.
There's that. It covers composition, chair, vice chair, powers of judiciary committee in terms of approving legislation and procedure, our procedures for accepting petitions, those being appeals, complaints, and advisory opinions, disciplinary action, how we deal with procedures, and how we deal with student organization charters.
Great, sounds good, Andrew. Other questions, further discussion? Seeing that there is none, all in favor of accepting the judicial internal procedures, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? No abstentions, motion carries. Thank you so much, Andrew, and the judiciary for making your internal procedures. I'm sure that they will greatly benefit those that come after you and yourself as well. So thank you, and student council as a whole, and the world at large. Thanks, guys. Anything else to report, Andrew? Great. Alrighty, so we will move into internal business with the operations report, and I'll go first. Number one, I am in discussions with the president, the real president, not Barack Obama, but Dean Angel, about coming and doing a lovely pizza with the president event. So I'll keep you updated on that as the event unfolds, and hopefully we get some one-on-one time with Mr. Angel, with Dr. Angel, I think, and some good pizza as well. Two, as you all should be aware of, you have received a link to the sustainability survey, which we have officially endorsed as a council. And one of the policies that we endorsed was to promote this. And so I would ask all of you to utilize your listservs and email out the link encouraging your constituents to go through it and answer the questions. I emailed everyone the link about an hour before this meeting, so it should be in everyone's inboxes, and if it isn't, just let me know or go through your own inbox and you'll find the link for that. So just maybe say a couple words about it and explain why it's important to do it, and of course add in anything else you might want to say in the email updating them about student council. So please do that. 3 is just email etiquette. I'm really excited to see that a lot of people have been emailing their constituencies, which is really fabulous. I would encourage everyone to be very careful about both the words they use and the spelling and the grammar. I'm an English major, so that's kind of sticks to my heart. But just be cognizant of it. I know that mistakes happen. Personally, I write a blog for a company, and occasionally there are mistakes. We're all human. But I would just encourage everyone to, maybe have a friend read it over, or even you can email me with it if you're unsure about it. So we just want to make sure that we're very professional and that we're upholding the high standards of student council. fourth is the lovely Worcester Committee, which went very well the other day. And I would like to thank everyone who was there, John and Mark, and Joseph, of course. We are excited about, and Andrew that was sitting in. We're excited about some new initiatives. I just spoke to Katie about doing a bi-weekly What's Happening in Worcester email. So stay tuned for that. And hopefully we'll be able to start getting our students involved in the city a bit more. And that's all I have. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Allie Lino with the Vice President's report.
Yeah, I've been talking to Chief Goulet and a couple of the other university police officers about open forum on off-campus safety. And we're looking at either November 15th or the 22nd. They're just working out their schedule, so I'll get back to you next week. And then I will be meeting with the campus programming board groups to go over planning for the rest of the semester as well as the January Welcome Back Bash. So if anyone has any questions regarding any of the campus programming groups like PEC, SAD, etc., let me know and I can bring it to them at our next meeting.
Thanks so much, Allie. Ryan?
So, in the course of the Finance Committee audits, it came to light that Student Council itself has actually spent more than 25% of its budget on food. So, given that this is one of the things that clubs are not allowed to do, I wrote a letter to Andrew in his capacity as Finance Committee Chair requesting a waiver. Over the course of a few days, it became clear, after discussions with Andrew Young, that there is actually no process in place by which Student Council can fine itself for audit violations. Now, this, on the one hand, is good news because we don't have to put ourselves in a position of finding ourselves, but on the other hand, it's very bad news because there's no way for us to find ourselves and there's no check on our ability to spend whatever we want. So I've asked the Finance Committee to work on a bylaw, an amendment to the bylaw, to make sure that there is a procedure in place for some form of transparency with Student Council's own personal budget. What form that takes will be up to the Finance Committee. However, I'd like to invite any members of council who feel that they have something to say about the issue to come sit in on Finance Committee meetings at the time that they're discussing that. Our meetings are generally on Monday nights at 6 p.m. And discuss drafting this bylaw, and we'll hopefully have something for you in the next few weeks. So that's agenda item number one. Number two, I believe Katie sent out the email to all club officers about cumulative surplus. I was wondering if any of you had heard any feedback from your constituents about cumulative surplus email or cumulative surplus issues in general. Oh,
I received a couple of emails from the residents, and they all want like new couches and ping pong table, pool table. But as far as I understood, it will not get funded.
Right.
what I think I've been hearing from a lot of groups, particularly a lot of clubs, asking for money for their club events. And I think in general, cumulative surplus projects are those which benefit the entire park community as opposed to one subsection of the park community. And I say that in general. So if your constituents would like to put forward a request, the application is online and it's due on Friday to Andrew Young. But that is a general rule of thumb. So particularly with clubs, I've been saying you may want to pursue another avenue. But it really depends on the nature of the request. So.
Further comments? Kate?
Can you have just an overview of kind of what are the big ideas people work with? I wasn't able to go to the forum, so I'm not really sure what are like the main things that we're thinking about right now with this stuff.
I think right now it's difficult to know exactly what students are going to be proposing, and I am aware of a certain number of projects, but I don't necessarily want to bias council by bringing those ones up and not other ones that could possibly be.
So nothing concrete yet, that was it.
Right?
Well, if it makes sense for the rest of the executive board, I just want to go over a bit of the schedule for how this is going to work going forward.
Right. Can we entertain more questions? Or
Yeah,
more
absolutely.
feedback?
That's fine. Anyone else with feedback from constituents?
Ron?
I mean, more questions regarding that. So do you guys have a list of, like, people are, I mean, I'd like to know what ideas are.
So like I said, if you would like to read over our notes from the cumulative surplus forum, that's certainly possible. I don't have them on me right now, and again, I don't want to just list the couple projects that I know well. But we can certainly
like send me an email what it is, that's fantastic.
And also, we will be presenting all of the requests that we see that meet the requirements of the application to council. So you will have a full understanding of what the events, or what the projects are that come to council. Since it's going through, Ryan?
Yeah, and just to clarify that whole process, so the applications which are on the website are due on Friday to Andrew Young, on Sunday, the 6th. The e-board will hear presentations from everyone who submitted an application. The e-board will then make a dollar recommendation to council, and those recommendations will be presented to council at the November 16th. Council is free to amend those recommendations, but we'll be bringing you all the applications that we've received to fulfill the application requirements at that meeting.
Other comments from your constituents? Sam?
Well, do you want us to just list off like some of the ideas we've heard from other people, or
I think that in general,
it would be better if we just email Eve or like the list?
okay, so I think in general, the executive board is interested in knowing about the general sentiment behind the fact that there is $70,000 that is available. We've been hearing certain negative feedback about it, mostly due to misunderstanding how the money is there and how the money can be used. And so we were just wondering if that was the general sentiment and if this email had clarified that. So are there any comments about that at all? I mean, we can entertain all sorts of comments concerning this cumulative surplus, but let's just make sure that that's our first, what we're first discussing. Bea?
Yeah, I got a lot of like, why is there $70,000 is not being spent on clubs? Like that's the sentiment I came back, I guess, if that's what your question is.
And that's really good feedback for us to hear. I think that the best way of clarifying it is to say that, and Ryan can certainly do this, but so cumulative, and maybe I'll explain because Ryan has explained already. So cumulative surplus basically exists because clubs don't spend all of their budget. So it goes, the money rolls into the cumulative surplus fund, which we don't necessarily get to touch when we're making allocations to clubs during finance allocations for annual budgets, because we make allocations and then during April, and then after that, then the money rolls over into the account in June. So there's no way, or in May actually, so there's no way of spending this money on club budgets, if that makes sense. So, and that money has sort of been accumulating over a certain period of time, over a couple of years, and so that's why there's $70,000 in it. It also is any excess money in any of our large funds. For example, if there was money left over in grants at the end of the year, it would go into cumulative surplus. It's generally the catch-all place. Does that clarify things? Because I want at least us to have a really clear understanding of how this works, so if our constituents have questions that we can answer them. Because I don't want there to be a perception out there that we had this money to allocate to clubs and we just didn't, because that just isn't really the case. Katie?
Just to kind of further clarify, cumulative surplus is made up of money from past years. It does not include any money from this current fiscal year, from 11-12. So any of the student activities fees that any of you guys have paid or your constituents have paid this year are not included in the cumulative surplus. They're allocated to the clubs and organizations, to the set funds you have, grants, advocacy, and so on. And if there is any money left over in them, which there usually isn't, or if there is, it all ends up in mid-year. So that's where mid-year budgets get allocated from. Anything that didn't get allocated during the original finance committee allocation based on their estimations. Again, when the student council recommends budgets for the next year, it's all based on estimation. It's not set in stone. So if there is money additional to what the finance committee worked with in the spring, it sits in this one account that they pull mid-year budgets out of, and that, you know, if there's money left over after mid-year, it usually ends up getting put into grants to further fund requests that come in or some other way like that. But there's no money from your current year in cumulative surplus. It's all money left over from last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. The last time there was a big expenditure from cumulative surplus, I want to say it was 2008. So this is, and that wasn't even that big of an expenditure. I want to say they used $20,000 for an additional day in that spree day that year, and that's the last big thing that comes to mind. So this money has been growing for quite a while. It's not all just from last year into this year. I think that's the biggest thing that folks don't necessarily understand, is that it's been kind of sitting, growing for a while, and eBoard this year really took a look at it and said, what are we going to do with this money that can benefit the entirety of the community, as opposed to just continuing to sit there and not be.
Ron?
So, how would the e-board be assessing these presentations and ideas?
Ryan?
I'm not hugely comfortable answering the question in any definitive way because I haven't seen all the requests. Andrew has been receiving them. When they come in, I'll have a much better sense of how I personally will be looking at them, and I'm sure the other board members can speak to that themselves. And when we present them to you as a full council on the 16th, we'll have pretty comprehensive thought process behind our recommendations. But at this point, I can't prejudge what's going to happen.
Essentially, the e-board will act in the same way that grants committee acts. So grants committee receives recommendations and then makes, or receives applications and then makes recommendations to you as a student council. And then you, of course, can vote them up or down, and you can also change the amount. And that is the way that this is going to proceed as well. So we will be bringing, even if there are requests that say we choose not to fund, but we still find, we still have applications for, and they meet the requirements of the application itself. We'll still be bringing those to you for a vote. And so you essentially will have control over the final verdict and the final amount that's being spent, if that makes sense. There is an application if you want to look at it online, and that sort of details what the e-board found to be important characteristics of cumulative surplus expenditures. So that's more or less what the e-board's thought process is. Any other clarifying questions? And I urge, if anyone is still sort of uncertain about this, I urge you to speak to any one of us or Andrew or Katie, because we can certainly give you a clear understanding of it if that's not already the case. And because this is such a large amount of money, I really do urge you to go out of your way to make sure that you understand it, sort of intricate detail of this. So, just please make sure that you do. Further questions? Any other feedback from constituents? And please tell all of your constituents that they are more than welcome to submit an application to us by Friday. Like Ryan mentioned, they're available on the Student Council website on the homepage. And thank you, Zach, for putting that there. And they just submit it to Andrew by Friday. All right. Any further discussion on this? Ryan, anything else?
All I have to report.
Thanks, Ryan. Hannah?
So Joseph and I are working on this library initiative to get the library open for 24 hours. We're going to meet with Gwen this Friday to discuss all the headcounts that we've received. If there's anyone who wants to help us, come please and talk to us. We need a lot of help for this big project. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. And Joseph for working on this as well. We'll move into the elections committee report. Ola?
So we received 2 more applications for grants. And we will probably be back in 2 weeks tomorrow or on Friday. And then Friday we will most probably make our decision to get a new member of the student council.
Great. And it's really exciting that we have 4 applications for 1 position. So thank you, Elections Committee and Communications Committee, for really advertising this position and getting the word out. And thanks for everyone that emailed your petitions about it, because I think that we're going to have a good pool of applicants to choose from, so that's nice. Anything else, Ola? Great. All right, we will move into Communications Committee report. Andy?
There's actually a couple other things on this that we type up that is works for Dynamic Servicing. She's the student liaison of sorts. And I got to talking to her about, based on a couple of the suggestions we got from last week at council time, concerns that a lot of them were concerns with the cafeteria. So, started talking to her and continued talking about possibility of doing kind of an open forum with students in different administrative departments. Right now it's very much in its infancy, but the idea is there. We are doing a cider with council event. We're going to get hot cider. It's originally supposed to be Wednesday, November 16th, but we're going to move it to either Thursday or Friday, right, Hannah? Tuesday or Thursday? All right, so it's going to get moved to either the Tuesday, the 15th, or Thursday, the 17th. And we decided we were going to go a little bit longer, so we're going to go from 12 to 4:30. That way we can get the lunch crowd and the dinner crowd. And we're trying to figure out if we can get a way to melt caramel to do caramel apples as well. So that's gonna happen. You'll hear more about that probably next week as we get closer. So we're gonna hear back from Spock on the use of the chocolate fountain for caramel purposes.
I believe that's Spock is no comment.
Scarlett is Leo's starting to work with Scarlett to do interviews with Joseph was working on at the beginning of the year, but now that we've lost Joseph to another committee, Leo's stepping up and taking his place. So you're all going to get interviewed at some point in the year to do like a meet a council member if you really don't want to do that. But we're in interview sessions for that. Probably the coolest thing we've come up with is a snow sculpture competition for student clubs. I'll let Rebecca say a word or two about it in just a second. Basically, it's clubs enter. There's snow sculpture, there's presents, there's kind of maybe something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Rebecca?
So the snow competition is going to be a whole bunch of clubs, whoever wants to apply can. And we're going to have a theme where they have to build an animal. We haven't decided if the animal is going to relate to Clark in some way or if it's just going to be like a fantasy creation. And we have a whole list of rules where people can only use snow and coloring. And it's going to be a fun day of caroling and building snow competitions. And so it's
It sounds very good.
And there's going to be, I think, the work organization committee to try to provide cash prizes for clubs. So there's an incentive, a stronger incentive for clubs to participate, but also, we're exploring possibility. And then we started working with CCN, trying to start working with CCN, and that's going to be Sam.
Oh, and
Sam?
I've talked to Rebecca of CCN, and me and her have been exchanging a lot of email back and forth, sharing ideas on maybe making a CCN show, or maybe not like a student council talk show or something like that. Which the two components that we've been kind of balancing out is one, like part that summarizes what happens in these meetings because of Robert's Rule of Law and like a lot of other things. It's always hard for people watching TV to fully get what's going on. But having like someone say, okay, in this meeting, this is what happened. You can see that it's divided. They're just like, you can mention all the factors, some of the side stories, some cool juicy details, the stuff that they don't always get from viewing us here. And the second part, which is a little bit of a bigger part, would be having kind of you get to know a council member. So we would have something along the lines of like, who are you? Okay, just like give a chance to get our faces, more of our faces out there on TV. And on that note, one of the things I've been kind of going back and forth with Rebecca on is the idea of having a questionnaire, which I'm probably going to sell. I may send a mass email out to all student council to have a list of questions that I would like you to answer and send back to me. Just like don't be modest, talk about brag, chance for you to brag about yourself and to get credit for it. And just we also, even if you guys doesn't have to be within, the sooner you guys get it, the better. But it's also, I think it's also, Rebecca also thought it was a great idea because it allowed, it gives you guys a chance to kind of think of what kind of questions media would ask you.
Very interesting. Very cool.
And just a second, I think me and Zach are working on a suggestion box. And right now we have, Zach can correct me if I'm making mistakes, which is probably likely. We're in kind of the alpha version of it, and it's up, and then so far we're getting emails and the suggestions, recommendations, but we're still going to try to work. It has, so there's some kinks that we're still going to work
Zach?
Yeah, it's just like in a testing stage right now. It works, but it has some issues on Internet Explorer, which I'm trying to fix.
The E-Board was very excited to see the suggestion box. We noticed it during one of our meetings, and thank you, Sam and Zach, for working on that. Right?
Just in general, Matt, Bill, Pencil, thank you for everything you're doing this year.
No
You're
problem.
such great things, and the work you're doing is fantastic.
Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Great. Thanks so much, Communications Committee. Those are really great ideas. And please let the other committees know if you need them to partner with you on any aspects of them. Certainly because of rest of all sort of new developments. Alrighty, so we're going to move into unfinished business, which there is none, and new business, which there is none. So we're going to move into last words. And before we start with our bombardment of lost words, I would just like to have John explain who our visitors were today. And I really wish they would have stuck around because I wanted to chat with them during this period of our meeting. But John, do you want to explain?
So the ones that were here, well, one of them was a teacher, and the rest are students from the local high school down here in the street, Fairmont Academy. That's where I went to high school. And they're the student council there, the new student council, so they kind of just wanted to come and see how it works here and stuff like that, and kind of get an idea. It's kind of raw at our school, like student councils, so they're going to want to get it for maybe they want to start doing stuff. So.
If you can email me with their email addresses, I'd like to shoot them an email and say, hey, it's really nice that they came to our meeting, and I wish that we would have been able to actually address them. So
Sounds good.
let them know that I'm really appreciative that they were here, and if they have questions, that they can certainly contact me. Further last words? Ola?
To go up on this, can we have something similar about pencil going to consortium school, see how they work?
Definitely. I can talk to the other presidents and see if that's possible. The issue might be transportation, but if anyone has a car, we can certainly do that. Will I volunteer buying for this? Great. Yeah, so it's definitely a possibility, and I'll shoot the other presidents an email and see.
I don't think they would mind.
Oh, of course. I think
Most
it's
like
just-
all the presidents.
Further last words? Further last words? Okay, and
Do you have an actual last word, Andrew? I was moving to adjourn.
I was going to do that too.
I moved to adjourn.
there's a motion on the table to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second? Second by Ron. Questions to the wording? Discussion. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Authorization.